It's not your. All right, we're good. We're live.
All right. Halo, 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 Zachariah Springfield. We are going to be going supersonic here as we put the Mario Bros. Before the hose.
Booyah.
Figure out these Metal Gear Solid shits. And, whatever Atari's known for, too. But what are we doing here today? I tried to fit in as many as I could off cuff.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to switch things up a bit.
Oh, you got another one.
And we're going to go into our Xbox here, and what we're going to do is we are going to rate 25 different gaming consoles by name only. That's right, we're not taking the console itself into play, we're just going by its name. So get your PlayStations, play with your joysticks. It's time to rank some consoles.
Yeah, we're going way back to first generation, all the way up to the current ones. Where the only ones we're grouping together are the PlayStation sequels. And if we left off your favorite system off this list, you got a weird fucking system as a favorite, man.
Yeah, you fucking suck. What odyssey are you going on? Go play with your Wii.
What kind of order do you wanna do these in?
Oh man, I don't even. I think the order it's in on here, on the website, is a perfect order for it.
Alphabetical?
Yep. Because it kind of keeps everything in line. We keep all Nintendos together for the most part, except for Super Nintendo.
All right, sounds good. First one up is the 3DO.
All right, when we talk about names, I mean, what does that say to you? I have no idea what it says to me.
No, you know what? I don't even remember for sure who made the 3DO.
Same.
I think, if I remember correctly, it's Panasonic, and I'm trying to look it up now. It is a Panasonic 3DO.
Okay. So I will say it gets points for being easy, for being nice to say off the tongue. The 3DO. It's not. I give it that. I'll give it some points there.
It never sold.
No, but that's not what we're judging on.
Well, partially.
Yeah,
because if it had a better name, wouldn't have sold. So I think it gets some. The highest I can go is a C on this, and I'm not convinced it's that high.
I would give it a C because I like 3DO. I like saying 3DO. It comes off the tongue nice. Other than that, no. It's gonna be on the low end of C.
All right, C tier it is for the 3DO.
Okay.
Now we get into depending on your age, there are 3 systems where you can just say the name of the system, and that is gaming. Like you could have, what kind of Nintendo do you have? I have an Xbox Nintendo. And that makes sense in a way.
Right.
Atari is one of those systems, but not for me. The 2600, again, are we basing it off of Atari, or are we basing it off of the Atari 2600? If it's Atari, it's S tier, but that's not what it is. It's the system in itself, the Atari 2600. I think it needs a step back. I'm at an A or B.
I'm at A because, look, it's not a 1, but it's Atari 2600. It's not bad to say. There's probably reasons behind it that we don't know. I'm at an A tier with it.
A tier? Sounds good.
And again, Atari itself, that's part of the name. That's a good strong name until ET came out. But speaking of Atari, we're just going right into its sequel, the Atari 5200.
I don't even remember this being a thing.
I don't either. I do appreciate that it's a bit logical step in order. It's a higher number, maybe not.
It's twice as big.
Yeah. So fair. So I'll give it that, but it's not as good as 2600. I'm at a B-ish tier.
A little bit higher than I would have gone, so we're looking at probably a low end B then.
Low end B.
The 7800, I remember the 7800 better than the 5200. So still not in the A tier, but quite a bit higher than the 5200, which again is another 2600 higher than the 5200.
Right. So it's 3 times as strong as the initial 2600.
Yeah. So the next Atari is what, the 10200?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
But
the Atari 10002 Jaguar, you fucked it up. D tier at best. I'm not going to say it's a failure, but fuck that.
Well, we don't have an F tier, so we can't really do much about it.
Oh, I have an F tier on my side. You didn't put it in an F tier?
No, but I probably can.
I put it in an F tier. I put in failure.
Oh, well, I went with what yours was, and I currently don't have an F tier. Of course.
All right, well, it's definitely a D tier then too, which means yours are different colored than mine too. So I got to make sure that they're not the same colors.
We're good. We're good. I have an F tier.
Okay.
I added it.
Congratulations. You can now fail a gaming system with me.
Well, that's probably a good thing.
We're gonna need it.
Yes.
Are we going to need it for the ColecoVision?
Probably. Okay. Maybe not F tier, but have you ever heard of ColecoVision?
Well, we had this discussion before,
Yes.
like we were planning this video, and this is the one system that we talked about beforehand, was you didn't know what the fuck the ColecoVision was.
I did not.
I do. It's a fantastic system. It's a shit fucking name.
Mm-hmm. F tier?
I'm gonna leave this one up to you because again, I know of it being a great system and also know it's a shit system. I was above the Jaguar, but I'm gonna leave that up to you.
The Jaguar name was pretty shitty, so we'll go that route.
Right above the Jag?
Yep. All right. Next up, the Commodore 64. Well, Jay, is that part of the Nintendo 64?
It's the original Nintendo 64.
It's substantially older. It was basically a computer for all intents and purposes. Solid name. I think I put above the 3DO, and that's kind of where I'm at.
Okay, C tier. The Intellivision. Great Pong system.
Got that going for it. I like the name though because it's a combination of television and intelligence. It's a nice combination there. Obviously it didn't do well because I had never heard of it. This is another one that I forgot about, haven't heard of prior to this. But a solid name. Again, we're ranking these by name. It didn't sell well though, so it can't go that high.
I wouldn't say that it didn't sell well. It just sold well before your time.
Maybe a
decade and a half before your time.
That's an accurate statement.
If this came out today and they called it Intellivision, it sucks ass. Back in the 70s, it's a good name. I'm at a B tier.
Above the 78?
I think I'm gonna split the Ataris.
Split the Ataris? Fair enough. All right. Next up, we have the Magnavox Odyssey. Another system I haven't heard of, but my biggest issue with this is it's quite wordy. Or it's quite syllable-y.
Is it, what if it were the Nintendo Odyssey?
That's a little better, but it's just
I think it's
the
Magnavox that's holding this back because
yeah,
Magnavox is not a gaming company
no,
because they failed at this system. If we're
that's true.
just the name Odyssey, I think is pretty decent.
I agree.
I like it better than the Commodore 64. Whether or not it's better than the Atari 5200 is your call.
Um, I will go yes because it does have Odyssey, and I think Odyssey is a criminally underused word.
Are we above Intellivision?
No,
Okay.
at least for me.
Then we have the Nintendo 64. And this, I think, is where we're going to start to differ because I think this is one of your favorite systems, if not your favorite system. And I look at it, and when it came out, like, I didn't have the Commodore 64, but I knew of the Commodore 64, and they released the Nintendo 64. And in my mindset, we just took a step back a decade and a half into gaming. I hated the name Nintendo 64.
Okay. It is not my favorite system, although it is one of my favorites. I will admit that. Super Nintendo is my favorite. The problem with Nintendo 64 is if you don't know why it's called the Nintendo 64,
It's 64-bit.
yeah, but if you don't know that, then you're going to be like, why the fuck is this called 64? And then they had this habit of naming like almost every game ever made on the 64. The Super Mario 64, Superman 64, Super Crotch-O-Vision 64, Super Castlevania 64, or that was Super Can. Yeah, no, that was or Castlevania 64. I don't think it was Super, but that was my point. Is like they just, everything was 64. I don't like the name of this system.
Oh, good.
I like calling it the 64. Like I actually like abbreviating it, but I actually don't like the name. I am with you on that.
See, when you say the 64, I think the Commodore 64.
That's fair. And then if you are an older generation that grew up with that, then that confusion lies in there. I'm not going failure on this, but I'm going. I'm at high. I'll put it above ColecoVision, but I don't know if I'm putting it in C tier.
See, I have it below Coleco, so let's shoot for it.
Okay.
I have it above the Jaguar,
Okay. Good.
below Coleco. You have it above Coleco, below 3DO.
Well, that looked like I was cupping some balls.
We haven't cupped balls in a while, so here we go. That looks odd, so that's what you get. I'm going to go even.
Fair enough.
3 out of 5.
All right.
1, 2, 3, shoot.
Am I early or late on yours? I was early.
You're late on mine, so it's throwing me, but I have to remember that.
Yeah, I was like a second early on Skype.
Okay.
I'll try to be a little later.
And
Or
1,
earlier.
2, 3, shoot. Tied up. 1, 2, 3, shoot. Ooh, you're up. 1, 2, 3, shoot.
Congratulations, Nintendo 64. You're still a D.
You beat out the ColecoVision. The Nintendo Entertainment System. The Nintendo. The NES. Whatever you want to call it, it is S tier, easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Trivia for those that may live under a rock. Do you know what the Nintendo was called in Japan?
Who are you asking?
You.
I don't think you did ask me. You were asking other people. They're not going to answer you.
Okay. Jay, do you know? Fuck you. Do you know?
What was Nintendo called in Japan?
What was Nintendo called in Japan, Jay?
I just asked you.
Oh,
Man,
Famicom.
we're horrible at this shit.
No, some days we're really good, some days we're really not. And that's what makes it great. As long as we don't have flatulence in the middle of our video, we're good to go. That's 3. Alright. Yeah, it was called the Famicom system.
Famicom. What a shit name that is.
And the Super Nintendo was called the Super Famicom. I don't think there was a Famicom 64 though.
Well, keep that in mind because I did not include Famicom in the name, but I did include that for a later system coming up.
Fair enough. Ironically, though, also they were slightly different from each other too. I think the Famicom and the Nintendo Entertainment System. They were. I think there was disc for Famicom versus the cartridge. It was weird, or at least some games had disc.
I don't think discs were a thing yet.
Well, Lost Levels was on a disc, so. Or, well, it was called Super Mario Brothers 2 at the time. But I digress. Now it's on, sticking with the Nintendo theme here. The Nintendo game.
Oh, you're saying disc. It had to have been a floppy.
Yeah, floppy.
Okay.
You're right. I forgot.
There's a difference there.
There's a big difference between. Yeah, it's a big old floppy.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mother Lunchroom Syndicate Special, where we fuck the shit out of everything. All right.
Including the Nintendo GameCube. See, this for me is like the opposite of the 64. I think it's a shit system with a pretty good name.
I think it's a pretty good name, and I will say it now. This is the most underrated system out there. I think it's a great system for many games. It has a lot of great games to it.
See, that's my thing against it was name like 4 good games for the damn thing.
You had Luigi's Mansion. You had Resident Evil 2 was on that. Yes, it was ported. It was really good on there. It was one of the best ports of it. Eternal Darkness was on there. That was a great game. But when I say, and I can't think of a fourth one off the top of my head. But my point is, they actually played, because I hate Sunshine. And if you want to watch my Twitch, you can watch me rage against that motherfucker. Oh yeah, I did switch it over. Good. I started thinking, like, did I switch over my OBS to off of Twitch? Well, I forgot. We actually looked it up on YouTube. But nonetheless, we're not talking about how good the system is. We're talking about the name. I love the name, the Nintendo GameCube. I think that's at least an A tier.
It is well behind Atari for me.
Oh, it's behind Atari. I agree with that. But I think it's above the Atari 7800 by quite a bit. So I think there'll be potentially stuff behind it, in between them, but it'd be on the low end if we could.
You think there might be stuff in between them?
Maybe.
Like maybe the Nintendo Switch, because I think the Nintendo Switch is a fantastic name, but it's not Atari.
It's not Atari. I don't know, man. Are we judging against Atari or Atari 2600?
When you say Atari, you're talking about the Atari 2600.
Right.
You can shorten it to just Atari, and which Atari system are you talking about? The 2600.
It's the same argument as Nintendo.
It is. I mean, Atari 2600 again is basically it's almost S tier. I just didn't want 3 of them up there.
So you're saying it's behind the Atari?
Yeah, but well above the GameCube.
I'm cool with that. But you know what's not in between them?
This failure of a fucking thing, Nintendo Wii U. Get the fuck out of here. That was actually a really cool concept for a system. It really had nothing to do with the Wii. It was like a different system. It is more closely related to the Switch than it is the Wii. And they called it the Wii. It's stupid.
That's a failure.
Yeah, huge failure.
Yeah, and you just talked about the system. The system's pretty good. I mean, Mario Maker was a hit on there for a reason, and they had some other okay-ish games on there. Man, how'd you fuck it up? Why'd you name it the Wii U? People were so done. Speaking of which, we didn't really go in order for chronologically. The Nintendo Wii that they But speaking of Nintendo Wii, let's talk about the Nintendo Wii here.
This one I think we're gonna have mixed, not so much between the two of us. I think we both actually kind of like it. But universally, I think it's a pretty disliked name.
It's disliked now because I don't know if it's the name that's disliked or the system that's disliked because it was such a departure from what Nintendo had done or what any system has done because it was so they went so hard into the generic gaming for everybody, and it was very successful in the first couple years, and then it just went in a hurry.
Well, it does two things, the Wii, that I like. One, it's like the Nintendo Wii! Yep. And two, it's Nintendo Wii, the us, the everyone. I think it's an A-tier name.
I would agree. I would put it above the GameCube, but behind the Switch.
That's exactly where I was at.
Okay. Let's switch. Let's go to the Sony PlayStation next.
Okay, it's an S tier.
Yeah.
Like I said, you can have it. Oh, what kind of Nintendo do you have? Oh, I have an Xbox Nintendo. You can say the same thing. What kind of PlayStation do you have? I have the Sega PlayStation. It's gaming consoles are PlayStations. Gaming consoles are Nintendo. What's better, Nintendo or PlayStation?
For me, it's Nintendo, but they're real close to each other.
I think this is another generational divide. I think if we're 10 years younger, PlayStation takes this. Just like if we were 10 years older, Atari would be number one.
Yeah.
It's just, we're putting this for us, and it's our generation is Nintendo.
No.
For our generation, this is factual.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. It's completely factual, not at all subjective. But I agree with you. I think, and honestly, even for me, I'm probably cutting the line between the PlayStation and Nintendo because I wasn't. Well, it came out in the late '90s, so I was 11, 12 years old. I didn't have it right away, but I mean, it's a great fucking system too. I mean, when I got DualShock, the controller kind of sucks. Still to this day, kind of sucks. But
well, here's another thing. I remember going off to Lake State for the first time, and I had a PlayStation in the room. My roommate had a 64 in the room. I'm sorry, the beat the shit out of the 64. It was 10 miles above the 64. It's like, well, the 64, you don't have to wait for load times. It's because it's on a graphic chip that can't do shit.
You're not wrong there.
And now we're at the sequels. PlayStation 2, PS3, PS4, PS5. We put them all together because they're doing the same thing with it. No other system has ever done that. I think it's fantastic. You know exactly where you're at. You know the next system that's coming out is the PS6. You know the PS is placing like it. I can't put it above the Atari because again, Atari is gaming systems, but I'm above the Switch with them.
I agree. It's sometimes these companies they get. And we're going to talk about one very soon, relatively soon. They get in their own head. They try to come up with this fancy, special, crazy marketing name like the blah blah blah, the ColecoVision or the 64, even the Nintendo Switch, even though it's a good name. But
you don't have the NES. Then you have the Super NES. You don't have the NES2, NES3, NES4, NES5. They kept it simple, and it works fantastically.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need to do that. Keep it simple, stupid. The KISS method. Let's before we switch over to Sega, we have one more Nintendo here to go into. Let's go with the Super Nintendo. I love this name because it reminds me of a Notorious B.I.G. song where he goes, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, when I was dead broke, I couldn't pictures. I don't know why that always sticks in my head when those two, but I love the Super Nintendo name. I love calling it the SNES as well. I have it below, I have it above in the A tier, probably above the Wii.
See, I have it above the Switch.
You have it above the Switch? I'm okay with that.
I was
torn
almost... If we were looking at two systems for the PlayStation, PS and the PS2.
Yeah.
I like the Super Nintendo better, but it handcuffs them because what do you do with the third system?
Exactly. The Ultra Nintendo? That sounds stupid.
Yeah, you can't keep doing that. Then you at best would have the Super Nintendo 2, which what about the first Nintendo? They handcuff themselves. But if we're looking at just two systems, Super Nintendo's a fucking fantastic name compared to PS2.
Absolutely.
But
and as I mentioned, the Super Nintendo is my all-time favorite system. I love that system to death. To this day, there's so many great games on it. The Mega Man X series, probably the best Zelda game for me on there. Link to the Past. Just all the Super Mario World, which is probably my favorite game of all time. It varies between that and Mega Man X, but there's just so many great games on the Super Nintendo that I love that system.
But
Anyway,
what came out after the Super Nintendo?
Are we switching over to the next?
No, just Nintendos. What was the next Nintendo?
I know it by heart. It says 64, but
see, I'm back and forth. Like I get confused all the time. Was it the GameCube? Was this 64? Which one?
It was 64.
Was the third one that came out?
It was 64, then GameCube. Because GameCube went to disc, sort of, because they went to the small fucking disc. And that was my biggest issue with them. Like, the fuck did you do with that?
Okay, but the next system brand is Sega.
Sega!
Now we'll break from going in order here. Let's go with the original, the Sega Genesis. Love the Sega Genesis. That was my system over the Super Nintendo. I preferred the Genesis. Overseas, known as the Mega Drive. That's a shit fucking name.
That's a bad name.
The Sega Mega Drive? Get the fuck out of here. Sega Genesis, fantastic name. But because they threw in the Mega Drive, I'm going to put it below the Super Nintendo. If it was just a Sega Genesis, I try to argue it above the Super Nintendo.
I'm okay with this ranking. I didn't play much. Actually, to this day, I have not played much Sega at all in my lifetime. And this is because we just grew up with Nintendos. It wasn't because I hated the Sega. I just never had really an opportunity to play it. To this day, there's been part of me that wants to try the Sonic the Hedgehog series because I'm a platformer guy, but...
Mortal Kombat for the Sega Genesis is the best video game ever.
Well, I disagree. Mortal Kombat is a very good game, but I think the best game ever is Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong sucks. You know something? You suck. You didn't join in at all. You were supposed to take one of those parts. We need rehearsals.
We do need rehearsals. We really should rehearse this shit. But I also couldn't stop laughing. All right. Well, Sega had a great hit with the Sega Genesis. How about their next in line, the Sega Saturn? The first disc system, I believe. The round disc system.
Yeah, and I know, and the games with it felt like a gimmick. It wasn't. It was definitely the next step. They didn't utilize it well. The system's not good. I think the name's pretty decent, though. I have it as the first B tier.
I would agree with that because they run into that. I in my lifetime, I've gotten confused between Genesis and Saturn at times about which one came first. Nowadays, I know it's Genesis, but growing up, I struggled with which one came first. But yeah, I'm fair with that. 'Cause I like alliteration like that. Sega Saturn, 2 S's. That's nice. So
yeah, no, it's a solid name. Wasn't a great system, and this next one really starts to put into line some problems with the Sega brand, because again, when Genesis came out, I switched over. I was Sega more than Nintendo, but it didn't hold because Sega now they don't do systems; they do video games. But when's the last time they have actually progressed their video games and made a video game for today and not a video game that could still be played on the fucking Sega Genesis?
I don't know Sega well enough, so I don't have a clue.
They're shit. They're shit games, shit systems after the Genesis. The Dreamcast, shit name. But it's better than the Jaguar, which nobody even fucking knew of. That's where I have it.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I don't hate the Dreamcast name. But, yeah. I can't argue for it. That's just what a disaster.
And finally, last system. It is still my system of choice, although now between the last two generations of the systems, my deciding factor in the two systems is the controller more than the actual system.
Yeah.
So I really wouldn't care that much for the actual system either way. I love the Xbox.
The original Xbox?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The name Xbox, I think, is fantastic when it came out. I think that was the exact right name for a new system when it came out. That's the only time I've ever waited in line for anything. Yeah, for me, I have a hard time between Atari or Xbox.
For me, I lean towards Xbox myself. I like I'm with you. I like the name. There's obviously reasons why Atari is high as well, but I'm above Atari.
Okay, you're not gonna get arguments from me with that. Xbox is the first A tier. And now we have the shit. We already did Xbox One. That's got to be the next. Fuck! Did we do them in the wrong order?
No, we didn't do them in the wrong order.
Okay, well, Xbox One. Obviously, I don't know why you have Xbox and then Xbox One, but that's. I mean, they're gonna call one, and they're gonna.
Jay.
Don't correct me. Just let me have this. Xbox One is the next system. It's a stupid fucking name. And again, based off a name and not the actual system, I have it as a failure right above the Wii U.
Yeah, you're that low on. I can't disagree because I have had zero. First of all, well, going the way we did is kind of screwing my. I'm gonna spoil things with this a little bit. I can't. I struggle figuring out where the systems lie.
I struggle figuring out what system I own.
Yeah. The Xbox One was the third system they made for some stupid fucking reason. The name is dumb. Like, Xbox One should be the Xbox, just like the PlayStation 1. Or, some people call it PlayStation 1. It's the PlayStation. I don't know what the fuck happened with their naming, and this is Xbox is the reason we're doing the fucking list.
Yeah.
And conveniently, it's last. It wasn't really the plan. It just happened to go in alphabetical order. But like I have no, it's lost me a lot because I have not gotten an Xbox since the actual second system, the Xbox 360.
Okay. Well, we put in Xbox. We put in Xbox One, the second one. The third one, that's 360. Xbox 10 would be the third one then. So Xbox 10. I'm gonna put it above Xbox One, but still a fucking failure.
No, you want to know why it's a fail? I almost put it below the Xbox One because they had an Xbox One Series X.
Oh, I forgot about that. You're right. Yep, it's below.
That's almost below the Nintendo Wii U.
It's below the Wii U.
You cannot have an Xbox One Series S and X, and then your next system be Xbox Series X.
And you can get it's Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox One S, then Xbox X and Xbox S. You already had that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's the lowest one on here. The third Xbox, Xbox 10, is the worst one on here. Now we get to the fourth one, Xbox 360.
Which is
And I'm
is
going to
actually
give
the
this
second.
one a huge boost over the other two Xboxes that we talked about, because this one was, again, they handcuffed themselves kind of like Super Nintendo, but Super Nintendo was just like, well, we don't have to continue with nonsense.
Yeah.
Xbox 360, it was the globe. Everyone around the globe's gonna enjoy this. And they had the whole spherical concept with the 360, and that's what the 360 represented there. The name was the spherical concept that they were going with. So I'm a lot more okay with that. And I think I'm... I have a spot in mind. Let me know where you're at. I have an exact spot in mind for me.
I'm at top B.
The top spot in B?
Yeah.
Okay, I was 2 spots below that.
So you were below Sega and Atari?
Yeah, I was between the 78 and the Intellivision. So we can split the difference.
All right.
Right there in the middle. Xbox 360 below the Saturn, above the Atari 7800.
Yeah. Man, Xbox, what the fuck are you doing?
And what the fuck's the next system going to be?
The Xbox X Series 1?
No, it's going to be the Xbox S Series X and Xbox S Series 1S.
360. That's why PlayStation has been dominating these last 2 cycles between them two, because the Nintendo Switch has actually dominated them two. Because it's easy. People know. Keep it simple, stupid. Xbox just went, we're going to have this fancy name that we're going to use twice? Like, what? And that, by the way, I just wanted to say the Xbox Series X, the actual fourth one, based off that picture, and I haven't seen one up close, it looks ugly as fuck.
I wouldn't say that it looks ugly. I think it does look sleek, but it's fucking massive.
Yeah, it looks huge. Like the PlayStation 5, that's a beautiful system. I like the look of that. My brother got one, and I saw it up close. I'm like, at first I'm like, this is weird. Now, as I got used to it that day, I was like, this is actually a really sleek system when it's upright, especially when it's upright.
See, I don't like the upright systems. Like, we have the picture there with the 360, it's upright, and I'm like, I've never had mine upright. I think they're stupid upright.
Well, I wouldn't have it upright because cats.
The PlayStation 5 to me just reeks of them trying to design a system that's going to be in Disney's Tomorrowland. Like, it's not an actual thing. It looks like they're trying to be from the future. So I actually like the design of the Xbox better, minus the fucking massive size of it. But, I've seen PlayStation 5s. I have yet to see a fucking Xbox in stores. I've seen the Xbox X Series S. Why? It's an inferior system. It's barely an upgrade over the Xbox One.
Yeah.
It's a slight upgrade. Where's your new system?
Well, we should have known things were headed south for Xbox and their decision making. Do you remember the big deal between the PS3 and the Xbox 360? Do you remember the biggest difference between those two? The war that was going on at the time when it first came out? Do you remember why? I'm asking you, actually, specifically.
Yes, I do. And this was a weird one for me because when we're talking the gaming system, I was on the Xbox side. When we were talking about the video distribution system, I was on the PlayStation side. Kip doubled down on it and added the HD DVD to his Xbox.
I forgot about that.
Oh yeah, we were like the one small group in the U.S. that was buying HD DVDs, and I'm like, you got to go Blu-ray. I'm like, no, I can put this on my Xbox, get different thing. But Blu-ray players were like $1,200, and the PS3 was like $800.
Yeah,
They were substantially cheaper. Like, oh, I can get a Blu-ray player for this much, or I can get a Blu-ray player that also plays video games for 75% of the price.
mm-hmm. And that was like 70% of the reason at the time I bought a PlayStation 3 was for the Blu-ray player. Even though I'm not as a movie buff like you are, it made sense. And then obviously I like the PS3 as well as a gaming system. Obviously, I like the 360 better. 360 is one of my favorites as well. It actually rivals for me the Super Nintendo in a lot of ways. But if not for Xbox customer support,
that's where it's weird. If we're talking about me personally, only me in a vacuum, I like the system, but it's not my favorite. But that system dominated my favorite years of playing video games. The Xbox 360 epitomizes for me the co-op couch gaming, and just some of my favorite times with mainly, I mean, sometimes added in some people, but mainly me, you, and Kip playing fucking video games for an entire weekend.
Yep.
And even when it wasn't Kip involved, me and you sitting down Rainbow Six in the shit out of the library.
I mean, Rainbow Six, for those of you watching this 2 years down the road when we have thousands of subscribers, story time.
Where's my blankie?
I have mine.
Shit. I thought mine was right here, but...
My house is cold. My cat's not on me. Rainbow Six Vegas is the reason we're friends today.
Basically.
Because otherwise I tried killing you on a forklift. That wasn't going to be a good reason. But we start talking about and before I played Rainbow Six, I didn't really get into shooting games like at all.
Well, that's because there's two types of shooting games. There's Rainbow Six, and then there's
everything else.
There's Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Fuck Call of Duty. Call of Duty, and now you have Fortnite jumping in with that type. No, it's SOCOM and Rainbow Six.
See, I never played SOCOM, so I couldn't. I never really got into that, unfortunately. I didn't really play Halo back when that was big, but I didn't get the original Xbox right away. But when I did, the only game that I vividly remember playing on the original Xbox is Fable, which also meant insane load times.
Oh yeah,
now,
possibly the worst of all time
that we've played. Because if you ever go watch some load times for Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 version. Holy fucking shit, that thing has some load times.
Why?
I don't know. Oh, I'm not saying watch it, but it had some epic.
No, what was it loading?
I don't know, but it had. So Sonic 06, as it was called, has you go to a mission. You have a load screen. You talk to a guy. Let's say it's a side mission. You talk to a guy. It loads the text box. It goes to a fucking load screen. Then you do the mission. You complete the mission. Load screen, and they're all long. It has like 3 or 4 load screens per mission. It's insane.
Yeah, Fable was you go to a new area, load screen. I could put the controller down, not having to worry about pausing it. Oh, what's going to happen when I get back? It didn't matter. Drive downtown, get something to eat, come back, and still wait 20 minutes.
Yeah. It was It was bad, the original one. If you got the Lost Chapters version, they substantially helped that a lot in that one. It still had some long load times, but it wasn't nearly as bad. But the original Fable, which I would not recommend to anybody, the original game, I would say Lost Chapters or get the Anniversary Edition later on.
I'd recommend the original too. It's the original Fable.
No, I'm saying I play the original Fable, but play it on the Lost Chapters version or the Anniversary version, so you're not getting the 100-hour load times, because that just takes away the experience. Although I did play it that way and I still enjoyed the game, but
the original.
And then Fable 2 came out, and then we need to make a video about Fable 2.
Yeah, we do. But yeah, Xbox did two big things, and it was games that separated itself from the PlayStation for me. And the first one being Halo. And I remember watching the trailers for that, and I'm like, I got to get this when it comes out. Got to get it this when it comes out. And it came out, and Pork Chop, before he was Pork Chop, he and I looking at it and just blown away by how that looked. Like, there was nothing else that was even close to Halo. And we're like, what is... Like, I can't imagine games looking better than this 20 years from now. And they do. But you can go back and you look at Halo now, and yes, they've upgraded it. But I mean, it's still... The foundation is still there. They didn't change the foundation. They just repainted it.
Yeah.
It still looks fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah, it is a great-looking game even to this day. It's shocking. It's shocking. It holds up shockingly well, especially for an early era game like that, and the early era Xbox. I mean, Fable's never looked good for the human sprites, but the background and how they did the nature looks really good.
It does, because they animated in a very interesting, like, painter style.
Mm-hmm. And Fable 2 is still one of the prettiest games that I've ever played. I love Fable 2's background.
But Fable came out, and it was, your decisions matter. And there were other games that tried to do that kind of did that, but they didn't do it as well, and they didn't really capitalize on that. And Fable, that was basically it. They didn't give a shit about the gameplay. They're just like, hey, this is what this game... And you bought it because of that. That reason alone. And then you played the game, and you're like, shit, it's actually a good game, too.
Yeah. And a lot of people give Fable shit, and deservedly so, because Pierre Molyneux, the original head of Lionhead Studios, hyped it up to be this epic thing. And it didn't live up to what he was hyping it as. But it was admittedly like crazy, but it was still an amazing game. Now, they did have a bit of a cop-out at the very end of the game. The original Fable, not including the Lost Chapters, with the Sword of Aeons, if you could basically instantly become evil if you took it, or I don't think it instantly became good if you gave it away, but so it did have a bit of a cop-out for that, but no, I mean, it genuinely mattered. It mattered for how shopkeepers interacted, how people interacted with you, what you wore. I thought they did it well, and I thought they perfected it in Fable 2.
Yeah, Fable 2 was great, and you said you wanted to do a video on that, so we won't get into Fable 2. We'll leave our opinions for the Fable 2, the what could have been and what unfortunately was of Fable 2.
Maybe that's our next one.
Yeah.
Let's make that our next one.
Because again, oh man, I want to talk about it.
I do too, but I want to make it its own thing. A couple other quick tangents here, talking about gaming systems, and so Jay, what is your favorite system? Did you say what your favorite system was? I said mine. I was Super Nintendo. I don't remember what you said.
Man, see, I'm having a hard time isolating from the co-op experience of the 360 to judge anything. So I think I'm just going to say the 360 because of everything that came around it.
Which I think that's a fair reason, honestly.
Nintendo, like, I didn't give half a shit about video games until a buddy when I was young got a Nintendo, and I went over there, and he's like, "Hey, you want to play video games?" And I'm like, "Why? No, fuck you!" Like, I didn't care at all. And then he sat down and he played, and then I'm like, "Holy shit, video!" And then I would go over there. Oh, I feel so bad. Like, this is one of my like worst memories. Like, I would go over there, and he's like, "Hey, let's go outside and play." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna play video games." And I was using him for his video game system. It's a shit thing, but the Nintendo really flipped a fucking switch in my head, and like I really liked video game systems. It was Mario Brothers, it was Duck Hunt, and if there was nothing else, I'm like, oh, I'm into this.
That fucking dog.
Excite Bike, like they were just so it's really hard to say anything other than the original Nintendo. But I can still go back and I can play games yet on Xbox. I can find some Sega games that I enjoy playing. Nintendo, there's like 2 or 3 games that I can even muster standing playing.
Yeah, it has not aged well. Which fair. I mean, it's an 8-bit system. There's going to be some drag there, but I mean, I could do that with Super Nintendo weirdly, even though it's a 16-bit, but it just looks nicer. It is a lot better. And
for The Legend of Zelda, and I'm going to lump the 3 Mario games together. Otherwise, I'm up to 5 games. But so 5 games: the 3 Mario games, Legend of Zelda, and Donkey Kong. Mm-hmm. That's it.
All original Nintendo titles.
And I can go through and find other games. I'm like, I don't even know why this is a thing. Like, they're just, I hate everything else on playbacks.
I don't blame you. I wish I could play the original Zelda. I can't. First off, I need a guide, but that's not the point.
Oh man, it's so deep. I went back.
I acknowledge it's a good game, but I have a weird love-hate relationship with Legend of Zelda as it is. There's only a few games I really like in that series, but
I went back in 2010 when I went back to school, and I got an emulator, and I beat The Legend of Zelda for the first time. I played all the way through it, and that's the first time that I did that. And that's 10, 20, 25 years after it came out, and it still held up to where I played through the whole thing.
No, that's fair. I think if you played it as a kid and you remember it, I think it's easier to go back to with that one. Which is weird because like I mentioned that with Super Nintendo, I love that my favorite Zelda is Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, which plays like an upgraded version of the original Zelda. Admittedly, it's the same top-down aspect, but just better graphics based. Slightly different story. It's the same shit. But I didn't play that, ironically, until 2017, 18, and I did the randomizer version of it for some fucking reason. And I said, fuck it, I'm just gonna go straight randomizer in this. And now it's become one of my all-time favorite games because of A, randomizer, and B, the game's just awesome.
But no, the systems that really stand out, like my aunt had a ColecoVision Atari. I remember them, but we didn't spend a lot of time playing them. Nintendo really changed that. Played a lot of Nintendo, and even with my Aunt Becky, like that was unheard of. I didn't know anybody else that had parents or older relatives or anything that played video games. More often I would go over there, and it wouldn't be me and Josh, my roughly same age cousin playing. I mean, we would, but it was me and Becky playing most of the time. And it was Mario 3, Dr. Mario, and then we get away from the systems every now and then. We play chess together. But it was a lot of Nintendo. PlayStation was huge for me. The Xbox was huge for me. The 360 was massive. I now have a One, and we occasionally have a gaming night. I don't play it a whole lot by myself, and when I do, it's not much more than just the NHL series.
Mhm.
Occasionally, I get into something else, but not too much with that. And I have the Switch, and I think the Switch is really cool. And if I were 12 years old, I'd fucking love it.
Yeah.
But I play that substantially less than my Xbox One, which I don't play very much. The rest of the systems I could almost do without. The Wii was cool, but it was very gimmicky.
It was very gimmicky, and with the one, well, I mean, it uses the gimmicks, but the the Mario games were about the lone things that stand up today for me. I love Galaxy and Galaxy 2. Those two are my favorite 3D Marios, easily, over any of the other ones. And that includes Odyssey, and a lot of people love Odyssey. And then New Soup, if for nothing else, is when you came up with Super Mario Bros. Before Hose. So I was talking to that girl, just was so fucking epic and awesome. And it was the first, which was weird. That was well, it wasn't the first if you count handhelds, but for console, that was the first co-op Mario game, which a true co-op when you're on the same screen.
We were so looking forward to that game. You were such a dick that whole night, man. We had that pre-ordered. We were like, oh yeah, fuck it. That entire Super Mario Bros. Before Hose, man. Like, I know. Like, after you were done laughing.
Yeah. Oh, I was... God, fucking pussy, man, I'll tell you what. Oh, that was a bad time period. But yeah, no, otherwise, yeah, the Wii was very gimmicky. Like, I don't ever play the Wii anymore. In fact, when I go play Galaxy on my gaming channel, on the Twitch, I'm going to play it on the Switch, since I have the 3D All-Stars. Even though there is some input issues on the Switch with the 3D All-Stars, I've ran into with both 64 and especially Sunshine, which is bad because I already don't like Sunshine. And then I'm very curious how it's going to work with, because you don't have a Wiimote to point at the screen with Galaxy. I know how they do it. You have to use I use the Pro Controller. You gotta kind of use the Pro Controller. It kind of keeps it's interesting. I'm not gonna make a judgment out now. Right now, it feels very, very awkward when I was test playing it, but it's something that I'm probably gonna get used to. And plus, you don't use that a ton anyway. So,
and here's another down with the Nintendo Wii. It ruined Samurai Warriors for us. At least that game. Like, man, we were hyped up for that game, and then we're just like,
yeah, that was bad. And it was a Wii exclusive. That was the worst part.
Yeah,
that was. I mean, because Samurai Warriors 2 on the
and it's not just that game; it's every game.
Yeah, like I think they did that with. I think that's why I hated Skyward Sword so much. The Zelda game that was predominantly for that, but it also came out on the Wii U as well, and I think it was better because it didn't have those controls. But
I mean, the whole idea of like, oh, it's just like you're holding a sword. Yeah, except you only have a Y-axis and an X-axis, and that's all it reads off of.
Yeah, and again, and then epic failures by both PlayStation and Xbox to try and replicate that. The PlayStation Move and the Kinect, I believe. Those are bad.
What did Xbox have? The Kinect.
The Kinect, yeah.
The one thing that we liked with the Kinect was this random. It was almost like a trial one. Hey, let's see what Kinect can do. And they had this game where you were like knocking blocks off and the ball would come flying back and you had to block it. And it's like, that had so much potential. And we're looking at that like, holy shit, do you realize in like 3 years we're going to have an NHL game where you can be the goaltender and actually be the goalie? No, never happened. That was the closest we got to it, and we were getting there, and they were just like, yeah, fuck it. Now you try playing goalie in the NHL game. Oh my god, it's so fucking bad.
Yeah. I know they've been making strides, although I haven't touched an Oculus or anything like that. The virtual realities. I know they've been making great strides in that. Beat Saber for I think it's the Oculus looks actually really really cool. The way it's played, it looks really awesome. It tastes like Guitar Hero, makes you like have sword. It looks really awesome. But yeah, a lot of potential there, but just it failed miserably.
Well, that's all it had, and then it didn't even lean into it.
No, and that's why it's called Kinect, because it's kinetic energy. It's never got used. It's just always there, ready, but.
Yeah, they started releasing like you couldn't get a system without the Kinect.
Yeah.
But nobody ever used it.
Yeah. It's like, here, have this, and everyone's like, no, we don't want it.
They're like, everybody's gonna buy this. We're gonna sell it separately so we can make so much money. And they're like, nobody's buying this. Well, what if we give it away so people buy the games? And they gave it away. And we're like, we're still not gonna use it. Will you buy some games to try it? No, you already got us with that HD DVD thing. Not again, buddy. Not again.
By the way, I'm very aware that I actually use kinetic energy wrong. Kinetic energy is the moving energy. Potential energy is what I was thinking of. I fucked that up. I'm aware. Future comment sections. This was a good trip down memory lane. I mean, there's obviously, I'm a little bit younger than you, so there's something that I don't remember, and I do remember playing the Atari a bit, and I actually have an Atari 2600. Ironically, I have no idea if it fucking works, but I've never tried it. I'm not even sure if I have the cords connected to anything I have, but then again, I have like every system. I have every Nintendo system mainline, and I do have the Saturn and Sega Genesis and Dreamcast. Actually, I have a Dreamcast too.
Yes, but you do not have an Odyssey, a Commodore 64, a 3DO, or an Atari Jaguar.
That is very true. Or 7800 or 5600 Ataris.
Or ColecoVision.
No.
What could have been system.
I need to add those to the collection, but who knows what they fucking cost, right? Probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they were extremely expensive nowadays.
Yeah.
Some of those older ones that don't really
When
exist.
I was finding a picture, I think I saw a ColecoVision on eBay for $250.
Not as bad as I thought it would be, honestly. Still high as fuck, but I was thinking like $500, $600, $700. If not hitting $1,000, depending on the system.
Yeah, I know, but I look back at it like, oh, you can pick up one of those systems. I would like to think that I could pick one up for like $10 because that's basically what they're worth.
Yeah.
Except they're collector's editions. They're not meant as playable systems. They're meant as collector pieces. So.
By the way, I just want to point out, I appreciate we're both wearing work shirts.
You pointed that out last time. It was too.
Oh, yeah. Good job, us. Come here, Jack. Come say hi. Come here, baby.
We need to get some Lunchroom Syndicate merch.
We do.
And I was thinking about getting some screen-printed jerseys. But what type of jersey do we want? I was almost thinking, even though neither of us are fans of, I was kind of thinking baseball jerseys.
I mean, it's the most shirt-like. I mean, hockey's a sweater.
Yeah, I don't want a hockey jersey.
Yeah, I think baseball.
I think it comes down to either baseball or soccer. Soccer's basically a t-shirt.
Yeah, soccer is basically a t-shirt. I think baseball would be a good choice, honestly.
I think we could have fun with that. Go with like an old school baseball, like a late 80s, early 90s style baseball jersey. And
yeah, I like that idea.
We have to find some heat applicated shit to put on because I don't want to spend. I built one up a couple nights ago. Well, two of them on a polo shirt. It was going to cost $300 for 2 polo shirts, and I'm like, that's not going to happen.
The fuck?
Well, it was $100 just for the setup,
Um,
but that's still $200. It's still $100 a piece.
yeah, it's ridiculous. It ain't worth. Well, if we actually ever got money rolling in, then maybe we can get a nice something. But we don't need that right now.
I thought it'd be cool to have for the two of us some
Oh no, I'm all
some
for it.
jerseys or some hats, and then I'm like, man, if I get a hat, I'm gonna have a hard enough time like ordering a hat because I'm gonna want to try it on to make sure it fits me, and then I'm like, oh fuck, now I gotta find a hat to fit Zunk's giant fucking head,
It's true.
and you've only had like one hat that's ever fit you.
I don't even remember what that hat was.
I think it was a Buckeye hat.
Was that the one I currently got?
I don't know. It's one of them that you wore, and
me
the
grab
only time I've ever seen you in a hat.
Oh.
Hey, is that Onyx?
Now, admittedly, this is a snapback, so I can actually make it fit. But although my hair is right now making it a little bit difficult. It is a snapback, though.
Yeah,
I don't know if you could-
that's still pushing it, but yeah, you need a mesh side snapback probably then.
Yeah. Yeah, I have an oddly shaped head. That's like my biggest problem with hats, and that's why I don't like hats. Is it just doesn't quite work right with my head.
Well, if it's not a hat, maybe I could talk you into wearing a hockey helmet.
Is it incredibly small and barely fit?
I met of the shit that I'm like, I wish I still had a picture of that. That was one of my favorite pictures. You in that fucking helmet.
That was a great picture. That and the lion. I wish I still had that video.
Not having that video is disappointing.
Yeah. I think I lost it because I dropped that phone in the toilet.
You know, maybe we should do that for everybody's getting a nice behind the scenes peek of how we come up with our stupid ideas for our videos that don't work.
All it takes is one.
Story time.
Yeah, we have a lot of them.
We bring them up
We-
all the damn time anyway.
We should end every video with a story.
No, I'm saying we
Okay,
have
maybe.
that as our own
Its own video.
our own video. Yeah, we can treat it like story time at Kalahari. We can go through. We can get our PJs on, bring our blankie out, get some hot cocoa, sit down. Hell, we can even write it down in a fucking book.
I like it.
Story time.
Well, we already talked about how we mentioned it in this video how we met. That's gotta be the first one we do. Is the day Z almost killed Jay. We have some great stories. For two people, that's at least that's never really been in trouble with the law. Like we never like did anything to get arrested or anything. And this
We've never.
have some.
I've never done anything to be arrested, or I've never been arrested.
You've never been arrested.
Okay.
But the two of us, like, we have some amazing stories that does not involve law enforcement. See, kids, you don't have to break the law to have fun. Just don't get caught.
It's still breaking the law. Actually, we haven't really done anything. If I can get into
Yeah.
some really bad story times, if I'm going back to Adam and I.
Yeah, you and I combined haven't really done anything that's...
Yeah, everything where you're like, oh my god, we've been up to shit. I'm looking back going, it's been the 10 years of my life, Zunk.
Yeah. And it's my like, oh man, this is my wild years. Although with my other group, with like Wax and Sheets and them, there's been some interesting. We were talking about that last week when I had to impromptu trip to Oak Harbor I had to go to. Not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday prior for a showing. We got to a lot of story time about the crazy shit we did.
How many holes did you end up in your face at one time?
0, thankfully.
Well, I got you beat by 22.
And you had Chad film beat too, and you were so excited for that.
Irrationally excited for that. I was more excited for that than that time we went shopping and we had the DTS surround sound, and we went to the used video place, and they actually had Rocky and DTS, or Rambo and DTS, and I'm
Rambo,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah! And everybody's like, way too excited for that, and I'm like, oh no, you don't understand. We're gonna be fucking shaking walls, Rambo style.
Yeah, you might have 22 holes, but did you try a hump a tree? Allegedly, I don't remember it. I don't think it happened. I don't care if there was 17 witnesses.
Humping a tree? I took a naked trip downtown to Burger King at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
We don't know if that's entirely true. Although the text messages say probably.
The text messages and the little bit of information I actually have would suggest that it happened. But that
you up against the glass naked is the funniest fucking image of all time.
But
yeah, we won't say why you were there. But
that's for story night.
Well, we
Coming
ruined that one
later on the Lunchroom Syndicate. But thank you for joining us on this one. Going back to what this video actually is, let us know your favorite consoles down below. And